But let's move to the north side of Chicago, where the Cubs have fired Joe Maddon after 5 great years. He won 97 games in 2015, 103 in 2016 and the World Series, 2017, 92 games, 2018, 95 games, and then 2019, 84 games. Maybe only 4 great years, and then 2019. But he gets fired, some people get upset when I say fired. His contract was up, and they decided to part ways.
He got fired, for my audio listeners, air quotes.
Him and Theo had a couple bottles of wine, and as partners, they decided to not go any further as Joe is the manager. So in my world, if someone said, we decide not to give you your job back, that means I'm getting fired.
You got fired.
You could sign me to a contract,
Sean,
you could fire me.
I got laid off. There's a difference.
Joe Maddon is going to be a great candidate for a ton of teams that are looking for managers right now. Mets are one of them. Angels are one of them. Padres are one of them. A ton of more are opened up as well. So Joe Maddon is going to get a job somewhere this year. But we got to talk about the guys that are going to be coming to Chicago. There's possible in-house guys. There's possible out-of-house guys. So we'll talk about all those guys, and then we'll give our picks on who they could be. And we're going to start off with a guy who...
Can I ask you something before we get into that?
For sure, before we do.
Do you think he should have been let go? Because there's a part of me still... that is like, I don't know if he should have been let go from the Cubs. Like, I don't think it was his fault the team played so bad this year. I think it was the players' fault.
I agree with you, and we've talked about that before, but I don't think that is... I don't think it means that he shouldn't have been let go. Okay. I think this fall from this team is more on Theo and Jed and the players. However, I do think that changing the manager could possibly fire some guys up.
Okay.
And this is a team that I don't think the manager matters too much in the end. I don't think that's going to win you or lose you games. It might if the manager's a dumbass and puts in the wrong guy. But Joe Maddon did that, and they still won the World Series. So, you could look at that, and it shows that the manager really doesn't matter in the end. But I do think it matters to getting guys to work together and create something in the clubhouse to bond together. And obviously we know, when these guys have these great bonds and these guys are able to play together, it's able to elevate teams. And I think that's what Theo was talking about at his end of the year press conference, where he was talking about we are too individualized as a team, and all these guys have these individual routines, and we're not taking enough BP together. We're not taking enough grounders in the infield. That they do all this stuff at the like the lowest in the MLB, and that was mainly always Joe's mindset. Is he wanted to keep guys fresh for the actual games, and I think Theo wants to go away from that mindset because he said that they're too stuck on 2016. However, let's get into the managerial stuff because he says this.
Yeah.
But then the number one guy, the guy that's rumored by Peter Gammons and all these MLB insiders, is David Ross.
Yeah,
the guy who was a part of this 2016 World Series team is John Lester's personal catcher for the past 5 years of Ross's career, and hit that home run off Andrew Miller, and I think it was the 7th inning to give the Cubs the lead. So you try to get away from 2016. Yet you're going to bring in another guy who is a part of the 2016 World Series team.
But I don't mind it. And the reason why is I know you and I, when we talked about the Cubs and the season being a disappointment, because Theo said that before it was all said and done, I threw out the possibility of David Ross being the manager of the Cubs if Joe was let go. And you said then that you didn't like it. And the thing I'm thinking about with Ross or Rossi as our manager is the thing that it's like you just said it 2 minutes ago, not even. Really, in the end, does the manager really matter? Like X's and O's, I don't think the Cubs are a team that needs a manager that is the high-end strategy guy. Let me put the guys in the right spot in the right order to make it work. We got great players. We got Chris Brent, we got Anthony Rizzo, we got Javi Baez, we've got guys, Kyle Schwarber, all up this lineup. We've got starting pitching. Really the big question is our fucking bullpen. The year we won the World Series, mercenaries. That's how we won it. We got, I know Chapman blew the game that we eventually came back and won because Joe overused him. But without Aroldis Chapman, we don't win that World Series. So bullpen was our biggest kind of lacking. I wonder if the Cubs should go more of a guy, and Rossi fits this, but I don't know if it's he's the only guy that can fit this. I think we need more of a motivator than a strategy guy. We need a guy that's going to come in there, bring the team together, and that's one thing I know David Ross can do. Andy already has a rapport with this club because he was kind of like that in a way, like kind of that player coach role in his last year with the team in 2016.
But here's the thing with that is Joe wasn't like a guy who was going to throw chairs and all that stuff in the locker room. But wasn't he supposed to be the motivator? Wasn't he supposed to be your best friend? Wasn't he supposed to be the guy that was helping you through all this hard time stuff? Isn't that somewhat of a motivator? Because he wasn't a crazy strategist, anything like that. Like, he moved the pitcher to the 8th spot. Like, that was the craziest thing Joe Madden was doing.
But here's the thing I also wonder, too, is things all change once you win a World Series. And that's what I wonder where coming into this season, when I look back at 2019, you didn't hear much about they're having all the Cub players wore pajamas on this road trip and all the like fun, quirky stuff that you heard in 2016, even 2017, 2015, where it was like the fun, quirky stuff, keeping the guys light. Like this year just felt like a tense year. And that I think played in part to our downfall.
So you think it was too tense. So what you're going to do is bring in a guy who you want to scream at these players.
I don't think David Ross is the guy that's going to like.
Well, what do you mean by motivator? I don't think David Ross is this guy who's like Joel Osteen out here, going to be like, hey guys, let's like that's what Joe Madden was. Joe Madden was the guy that's like, hey guys, we're going to be working together in these lower class areas and try to raise them up. Like we're going to motivate these players. We're going to rally around everybody. That was all Joe Madden. Joe Madden's all about love, peace, and happiness.
And I think that David Ross, in a way, in his own, he's not going to be like an exact Madden clone, but like I used the example of, I think it was that same game, the game we clinched the World Series, where David Ross was talking to Anthony Rizzo. And it's just like their relationship in that season where Rizzo felt like he could go to Ross, and Ross was like that mentor, kind of bringing him up. You mentioned it last time we talked about the Cubs, where we expect Bryant and Rizzo to be the guys on this team, like be the leaders. And I think you mentioned it with Rizzo, where it's like, it hasn't felt like he's made that turn completely into like being the leader of this team. And I feel like having a manager like Ross, if you want that to happen, that could help. But I'm not saying like Ross is the guy, go get Ross. He's the guy that I need to be the manager of this team.
The other guys that are going to be out there, at least in-house as well, Mark Loretta, he's currently the bench coach for the Chicago Cubs. He joined the Cubs in 2019, so he is not really a part of this, the 2016 whole stuff. He was brought in the bench coach after Davey Martinez went to Washington. And then Joe Girardi is a candidate as well, former Cub catcher from Peoria, former Yankee coach as well. He's interested as well. He said it on 670 The Score recently. Raul Bañez has been a name that's been brought up as well. He's currently a part of the operations. He's a special advisor to Andrew Friedman, the baseball operations. The president of baseball operations for the Dodgers, Raul Bañez, former player as well. Joe Espada, currently the bench coach for the Houston Astros. And then Carlos Beltran, who is currently a part of which organization? Obviously, former player as well. Carlos Beltran was a stud.
Did you mention?
He's currently with the Yankees organization as a special advisor to Brian Cashman.
Did you also mention Will Venable?
Will Venable, who's the first base coach for the Cubs as well, but I don't think he's not a guy.
I just threw his name out there because him and Loretta are the two in-house guys.
So I think the guys that you should be looking at are Ross, Loretta, and I wouldn't be shocked if they looked at Espada just because we see what the Astros have been able to do. And I think Theo thinks he's on the level of the Astros front office. I don't think that he thinks he's behind all of their ideas, and they're trying to bring in a director of hitting and pitching for the minor league and major league levels to develop spin rate and develop their pitching and develop their motto and to make sure that their message gets out to all their pitchers. So I think that they're trying to make sure that that's a league or an organization-wide message, kind of like the Astros have. I wouldn't be shocked if they try to get some of that secret sauce, though, from the Astros on what they're able to do, because they're able to just put in really anybody to these lineups, and they're able to produce. We see what Aaron Sanchez was able to do before he got injured for the Astros. He looked like a brand new, different pitcher just by the second he stepped in, and Theo talked about that, raising guys up once they step in. Garrett Cole, we always knew that he had this great upper next level. We knew that the Pirates were holding him back because they weren't letting him throw what he wanted. But he comes over and he's a Cy Young candidate. And
also
we look
giving Verlander a shot to his career.
Exactly. Obviously, that's the big one too. I feel like that one's a little bit different though.
He was
you brought in a
coming.
Absolutely.
Like in the Tigers, it was kind of like, well, the Tigers are mediocre. I'm just gonna die here, and this is where my career comes to die.
Absolutely, but I don't know if that's also a little bit like Justin Verlander is a stud, right? Without a doubt. So I wouldn't be shocked too if that change of scenery just sparked him to work a little bit harder.
A little shot in the arm.
But even then, Verlander is a very for sure great case as well. And you can even look at some of these batters as well. Like Robinson Chirinos came over for the Rangers, was an alright hitter, and then now has been a great part of their lineup. And even Yordan Alvarez, they're able to find him, and he's able to just be a casual plus 1,000 OPS hitter. So I think that they might look at Espada. Raul Ibanez, I think, is the most intriguing name to me, though.
Why?
Mainly just because he is a guy that people have talked about. He's very good with the media. He's a very smart player, bilingual as well, which is something that will obviously help guys like Wilson Contreras, Javi Baez, make it more feel like possibly like a family environment clubhouse. That's something that Matt Nagy has talked about a lot.
You want to isolate guys.
Yeah, a lot throughout his time in the press conferences, that he wants this team to feel like a family. Raul Ibanez might be able to bridge some of these gaps, and I don't know what Ibanez is like as a manager. He's never had that experience. However, I do know that he has been a guy that has been through the ringer. He's been a very good player as well. Has played in different organizations. Played for the Royals, which was his last stop. Yankees, currently with the Yankees right now. Phillies, has playoff experience too with the Yankees and Phillies as well. World Series experience. Mariners as well. So I do think that he could be a guy that could really spark this team, and he'd be an interesting hire, to say the least. For people who want Joe Girardi, get off that train. I think he's the least likely candidate to happen, mainly because the money that he's going to be owed, and I think that they want somebody who...
Do you think it'd be a smart hire?
No.
Okay.
I think people want him because he's won games before. I think that would
he's a name.
I think that would be... I think Ross is the dumbest hire. I think Joe Girardi would be second. Not because Joe Girardi isn't a good manager and hasn't proved that he's been able to do this before, but he already has been a coach and a manager. Sorry, people don't like when people say coach. Manager for at least, 9 to 8 years now. So he's been a guy that has gone through his ideas and his way of managing, and he's pretty much set in his ways. I don't think if you bring Joe Girardi in, he's going to have this crazy...
11 years.
11 years. Yeah. Even better for my argument.
10 with the Yankees, 1 with the Marlins.
Oh, I didn't even know he was a Marlins coach.
2006. He was the manager of the Marlins, took a year off, and then from 08 to 17 was the manager of the Yankees.
Yeah, I didn't even know he was National League Manager of the Year, but yet was fired for being the Marlins coach. I don't remember that. But with that, I think that he's been a guy that, at least for his Yankee tenure from 2008 to 2017, he's a guy that has been set in his managerial ways. He knows what he likes from his clubhouse, and I don't think Theo wants that. I think if you hear all the names that are coming out, Espada has not been a manager. He's been a bench coach, but he's never been a manager. Raul Ibanez, never been a manager. David Ross, never been a manager. Carlos Beltran, never been a manager. Mark Loretta, never been a manager. They want someone they can control. Joe Girardi is mainly coming from the fans because he's a Chicago guy, he's a former Cub, and that he's won before. That's all coming from fans.
But
Joe Girardi is not a guy that will help push Theo's message, and I think would just be contingent and fight with these guys and fight with Theo and Jed on their message because he knows what's right. And I don't blame Joe Girardi because he's won a World Series, but I don't think he would be a smart hire. I think David Ross is just sticking in too much in the 2016 years. I think Joe Girardi is just a guy that is a name, and you're not really doing it because of trying to instill the values that you want in your players. That's why you're hiring a director of hitting. That's why you're hiring a director of pitching. That's why you're trying to make major changes to this team. You want to get away from what has worked in the past. You want to go with what is new and pushing baseball to this next level. I don't think Joe Girardi does that. I think guys like Raul Ibanez could, because he's been around the Dodgers. He knows what Andrew Friedman's done, and look what Andrew Friedman has done. With this Dodger team, they're hitting machines, and with Beltran too. Beltran has been under Cashman as well, and has also had that playoff experience as well. Is bilingual. I think those two guys would be absolutely phenomenal hires.
Here's the thing that I kind of think of, and I mean, there's no exact science to this, and the one reason why I feel like most Cub fans would throw out Girardi is, number one, whenever it's a guy that has played for the organization in some way or another, like Girardi being a guy that's played for the Cubs in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, and then later in the early 2000s, usually it's a guy that's like, yeah, he's one of us. We can get behind him. There's also the part of me where it's like, yes, I know Theo wants someone that they can control, but it has to be, to me, obviously the right guy. Because, like, the thing I start thinking about is how much experience do these guys have? When it comes to Mark Loretta, before this year, had never been a coach in the MLB. You've got Will Venable, who's another one. The last 2 years, his only experience as a coach. David Ross, no experience as a coach. He would be more of in the Aaron Boone model, but with less time because, Booney spent more time as an ESPN Baseball Tonight analyst than David Ross did, the last year or two with them. But, like, Boone's one I pull up. 2018, got hired by the Yankees. No coaching experience. Just he was on TV and an analyst and involved in the game. Then I also looked at the Braves manager. He's another one that has been around the Braves organization since like the 80s as a coach, never a manager. And he took over in 2016. You've got AJ Hinch also, too, with the Astros. He was a guy that was a manager for a year or two in Arizona before coming over to Houston. So there's a part of me that's like, if you're going to get one of these guys that has no experience, Dave Roberts is another one where he had experience with the Padres and then made the jump over to the Dodgers. If you're going to get one of those guys that has no experience, you got to make sure they're the right guy, because they're the guy I wonder, and I'll even throw Ross into this, when it's the playoffs, because that's the goal.
Yeah.
When you're in the playoffs, you got to make the right decision and put the right lineup in there, or make the right decision of like, hey, like what the Dodgers are doing this year of, hey, we're going to start Buehler game 1. We might not even start Kershaw till game 3. Are you going to be able to pull the right strings as your first year? And are you even expecting that? Or are you hiring this guy to like, yeah, well, you know what? We'll give him a year or two to grow, and then we're in the World Series hunt again in 3 years.
I don't think playoff experience has anything to really do with it, or big moments.
Experience in general.
For sure. But I don't think, Theo said this too, like in his post, because I forget who the media asked him, but he said, not having prior managerial knowledge isn't going to play a factor. It's going to hurt them a little bit, but that's not going to be the end decision. That's not going to make our decision in the end. Anyways, if they're good interviewers, they have good thoughts on what the future should be. They can get the job. It's going to be about the guy who we think could be the best manager, and I don't think that matters. Having prior managerial knowledge, and I honestly think that with the way he was talking, he wants change, and I don't think that Joe Girardi will inspire change too much. I think that prior managerial knowledge might hurt these guys. And maybe we should bring up signature moments, because, hey, you bring in Aaron Boone. This is literally just a crapshoot. Yeah. This does not mean anything, and I just thought of this. But, hey, Aaron Boone, what is he famous for, playing career-wise?
Just playoff moments in general.
No, but what's the playoff moment?
Wasn't it you think about the Yankees, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the homer off Wakefield.
That's right.
Down the line in left field, he fucking smashed that thing. What's the big thing Dave Roberts is known for his playoff career?
He stole a base.
He stole a base in the ALCS that fired up that comeback from 3-0 against the Yankees in the 2004 series, and then they won a World Series. Carlos Beltran. People don't remember this. He was named Mr. October Jr. or the new Mr. October because he hit like 7 home runs in 6 games. He was Daniel Murphy before Daniel Murphy. And he's bilingual. He's a fucking former switch hitter, which means he's automatically cool. And, fuck it, Carlos Beltran's a cool guy. So go hire Carlos Beltran or Raul Ibanez, because Raul Ibanez had a huge home run too as a Yankee in that World Series run as well. I think it was that. Yeah.
So any of those guys, get a guy with playoff experience.
Get a guy who's hit a home run in the playoffs. That's what you need to do. Fuck it. Joe Girardi, I don't remember. What has Joe Girardi done? Huh?
Fuck it. You know what?
David Ross kind of has.
All of these guys, push him to the side. You know who the Cubs need to go get? Kevin, what was his name? Not Kevin Pillar, because he's a guy on the he was on the Blue Jays. Was it Kevin Millar?
Yeah,
was
Kevin Millar.
on the
You're talking
Red
about the
Sox
MLB analyst?
intentional. Kevin Millar, that's who we need.
Kevin Youkilis does not have a postseason moment, but he is a special advisor to Theo Epstein, so he could possibly be a guy that comes up. I'm going to go look up Raul Ibanez's splits in the playoffs. Final thoughts.
Yeah.
I have one other crackpot idea.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that bringing in a guy with no managerial experience to push Theo's message is going to be huge, and guys that can relate to these players is going to be huge as well. I think Carlos Beltran and Raul Ibanez makes the most sense to me. Mainly just because, too, I don't think Ross would be the hire or should be the hire just because you want to get away from 2016, and he is so tied to that 2016 season. I think it would be a thing that would hurt him in the end. If you disagree, I'd understand. But I do think it's not going to be something that does help him in the long run. The final crackpot idea I do have, and also...
Go ahead.
Raul Ibanez fucking smashed when he was a 40-year-old in the ALDS. He Jesus Christ. He had 2 home runs in 4 games against the Orioles and had a OPS of 1.611. And I think combined in that series, because even in the next series he had another home run too. Yeah, so it was the 2012 Yankee run that he was murdering balls down the right field line. Anyways, I think the last crackpot idea I have is Theo also said that they have their eyes on guys who are currently in the postseason, big managers that are currently in the postseason, and this was before the playoffs started. And I didn't think of bench coaches right away, so that's why Espada was thrown out and Raul Ibanez was thrown out as well, because those guys currently work for teams that are in the playoffs, Houston Astros and Dodgers respectively. But he also said that they don't care about the price. Joe Madden's contract and what he was going to be worth.
So you think they're going to try to pull a manager away from a team?
Theo said, anyone should be interested in this job. The Chicago Cubs are a marquee
should be a
franchise.
Marquee place, yeah.
What team has lost 9 straight elimination games in the playoffs after, 2 days ago?
You're talking about the Nationals.
We're talking about the Oakland A's.
Oh, that's right.
Bob Melvin is a superior coach. He is a guy that can bring teams together. He's currently making $3.5 million, and we've seen coaches be moved away from teams. Ozzie Guillen was traded away from the White Sox to the Marlins. I believe there was another example too. I think it was Lou Piniella was moved as the Mariners coach as well. So it's happened before. This is a complete crackpot idea, but Bob Melvin's one of the best coaches or managers in the MLB today. I think you should go out and possibly poke that bear because he has had success with lower tier guys, like bringing in Marcus Semien from the depths of hell and bringing him up to the next level. Matt Olson was a guy that he was able to elevate as well. Matt Chapman I don't think would be as good if he didn't have Bob Melvin. They've been able to pretty much reclaim every single bullpen arm they've ever gotten. Blake Trinan wasn't this good, and he came over last year and was phenomenal. Lou Trevino came out of nowhere as well. Liam Hendricks was an absolute stud after Blake Trinan fell off. I think Bob Melvin would be an interesting hire. I think it's a complete crackpot idea, and it's like 1% chance of it happening. But hey, maybe Oakland thinks he's making too much money and he hasn't had playoff success. Fuck it.
You know what? I'm going to take your crackpot idea.
Oh, great.
And raise you one more.
Oh, great.
Because I had this thought. And then there was it was the day that Joe Madden got fired. I was like, oh, what if they went after this guy to try to pull him away from his team? And I immediately was like, nope, would never happen. We got to go with a bench coach or someone that's around. Who didn't make the playoffs? Who's a really fucking good manager? And who's a playoff manager?
Joe Madden.
No.
Oh.
Cleveland Indians. Terry Francona.
No.
Theo bringing his boy back.
No.
Francona, new coach of the Cubs. Am I saying it's going to happen? Would I like it to happen? Yeah, I'd be fucking ecstatic. Francona's a good manager. I'd have faith in him. But, that's my crackpot idea. Bring in Terry Francona, have him be the manager. Because, the Indians, they're on the way down. They missed the playoffs, too. What? I would say we have more talent than them, right? Right? But our division's more competitive than the AL Central. What do you think?
I don't hate it. If I'm throwing out Bob Melvin,
yeah,
Francona's interesting. But would he want to go back and work for Theo and Jet?
That's the thing.
I don't think he wouldn't. Theo did bring him up in the press conference.
The other one I could think of that
Jesus Christ.
This goes against the getting away from 2016, But if they don't care about 2016, why not target Dave Martinez from the Nationals?
No.
Has ties to the organization.
If you're going to go out and get a guy, I think Melvin and Francona would make sense.
Those are the guys you're taking away from teams.
Yeah, I think they're likely just going to go with one of these outside hires. I don't think they're going to go inside.
Last thing I wanted to ask you, where does Joe Madden land? Because I think he's a Met.
No, he's an Angel. There's
because that's why they fired Ausmus.
That's where
I feel
where
bad
he started.
for Brad Ausmus.
Yeah, that's where he started. His managerial coach is a bench coach for the Angels. He's from L.A. I don't think he wants to leave that. I think if he can go out there and coach Mike Trout, hell yeah, he's taking the Angels job. I think they pay him whatever he wants to. So
true, good point.
I think L.A. is the guy.
And I'm sorry for Brad Ausmus because I just feel sorry for him that, hey, you got this team that isn't that great, but you got Mike Trout. No, by the way, we're going to fire you because we're going to try to get Joe Madden.
Yeah. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Who you think is going to be the next manager? Ricky, your pick is?
I'm going to go with Dave Ross.
Okay. I will go with Carlos Beltran because I just love Carlos Beltran as a player. So I wish he would be in a Cubby blue. Also, I wish he would be in White Sox black. So if he wants to be the White Sox coach, go ahead and do it.
Let's be honest. I'm not a huge fan of your. I'm not a fan of Rencher.
Fire Ricky.
Yeah. We did, and we got Joe Madden. It worked out for us.
I'm shocked he hasn't been canned.
Yeah,
because they can the hitting coach. I don't want to get too much on the Sox. They can the hitting coach, right?
Yeah,
and they 100% had a talk with Ricky about, hey, this is how you need to set your lineup.
He ain't good.
Well, this is how you need to set your lineup. And then Ricky went out and was like, yeah, it's shit. Like, he went out into the media and said that. I don't think people remember that because it's the White Sox. But he literally was like, yeah, it's a ton of bullshit. But anyways, let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. I'll go with Carlos Beltran because I love 15. And Ricky's going with David Ross because he's a basic bitch. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Who the manager going to be. I can't wait until November when David Ross will be announced as the Cubs manager because it's likely going to happen. But let us know your thoughts down in the comments below.